There is a house in this frame. It is not the reason this property is priced at $110 million. Look at where it sits. That skyline behind it is downtown Miami and the Brickell corridor. The water in front of it is Biscayne Bay, and the land under it is 1 6/10 acres on Brickell Avenue. With more than 170 feet of open bay frontage, on the stretch they have called Millionaire's Row. For 100 years, the house was built in 1920, 7 bedrooms, a little over 5,700 square feet. It is elegant, it is original, and it is almost beside the point. Because what you are actually looking at is a piece of Miami that cannot be made again. They stopped making Brickell Bayfront a long time ago. This is what is left of it. Over the next 15 minutes, I want to show you exactly why the number on this one makes more sense than it looks. Let's walk it. A 100-year-old estate on the highest limestone ridge in Miami, hidden behind a coral rock gate with a private dock reaching straight into Biscayne Bay. If land like this is what you come here to see, subscribe. We track down the pieces of this city that only trade once in a generation. So let's establish exactly where we are, because location is the entire story here. From above, you can see it. On one side, the towers of Brickell and downtown Miami. On the other, Biscayne Bay, opening all the way out to Key Biscayne and the Rickenbacker Causeway. This property sits right in the seam between them, inside a canopy of oak, palm, and banyan that makes this one of the greenest corners of the city. There is something the drone reveals that matters even more than the view. This ridge, the land sits high on the oolite limestone spine of Silver Bluff, and in a city built at sea level, elevation is not a detail, it is insurance. Locals will tell you this ground almost never floods. Minutes from the Grove's restaurants and shops, next door to the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens, with easy reach to downtown, the airport, the beach, and Key Biscayne. You are secluded, and you are in the center of everything. Those two things almost never come together. Here they do. There is a reason the families on this street tend to hold their ground for generations. When the supply is truly finite, you do not sell it, you hand it down. This is not a neighborhood that gets rebuilt every 10 years. It gets protected. Now the house itself, come up the circular gravel drive and it tells you exactly what it is. A 3-story 1920s bayfront residence, white, symmetrical, and honest about its age in the best possible way. Those angled panels over the windows are Bahama shutters, the original Florida answer to sun and storm, decades before anyone put the word coastal in front of design. The proportions run tall and generous, the kind of 9 and 10-foot volumes nobody frames anymore, with deep verandas and screened porches, wrapping the bayside to pull the breeze straight through the house. Notice there's no showy gate-to-door theater here, no motor court fountain. The restraint is the point. This was not built to impress a camera. It was built to live on the water for a century, and it has. Picture a Wednesday morning, coffee in hand, walking this lawn down toward the bay with nothing on the calendar and nowhere you need to be. That unhurried pace is the whole idea of this house, and it is a very hard thing to buy anywhere near a city this size. Here is the number that defines this listing. More than 170 feet of frontage directly on Biscayne Bay. Let me put that in perspective. On protected open bay water like this, in this pocket of Miami, shoreline trades somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 per front foot. Run that against 170 feet, and the frontage alone accounts for tens of millions of the ask. And you haven't stepped inside yet. The seawall runs the full length of the property. The private dock reaches straight out into the bay, and here's the detail that matters to anyone with a boat. There are no fixed bridges between you and the ocean. That means open water access for a vessel of serious size. You are not trapped behind a low span waiting on a tide. From the lawn, one simple path takes you down to the water. Water sports, sport fishing, marine life drifting past the seawall at first light. Out here, that is an ordinary morning, not a vacation. This is not a house that happens to sit near the bay. Every square foot of this land is aimed at it. Now walk the grounds, because this is where that limestone ridge turns into something you can actually see. The lawn doesn't just slope to the water, it steps down it. Over terraces cut into the natural oolite bluff, with stone risers and planted beds holding the grade. That is the high ground of Silver Bluff, landscaped instead of buried. When the light drops, the whole composition changes character. This house is genuinely more beautiful after dark. Watch what happens as the windows warm up against a bay sunset. The white facade glowing, the moon lifting off the water, the gravel court catching the very last of the light. There is more than an acre and a half of this to move through mature specimen oaks and royal palms, iron benches set to face the water. fire bowls resting on the grass, and, by the way, room for a pool wherever you decide to put one. Most estates at this price hand you a finished backyard and ask you to live in it. This one hands you a canvas and a piece of the highest ground in Miami and lets you decide. Let's go inside, and the first thing to understand is that the interior is original and it has clearly been loved. Step into the foyer and you're met with heart pine floors, a classic wood staircase, and a wall of framed heron and shorebird engravings that looks like it has always belonged here. Off to the side, the library, arched built-in shelving, worn leather-bound books, an upright piano, a pair of soft cream chairs on an antique rug. Then you look up and out those windows, palm fronds, and behind them, the water. This is a room for a slow Tuesday afternoon and a good book, the kind of space that does not have a closing time. Nothing in here is loud. Every floorboard, every shelf, every pane of wavy old glass carries 100 years in it. This house remembers things. You can feel it the moment you step in. All of it is genuine, and none of it can be faked with a renovation budget. Off the main rooms sits my favorite space in the whole house, this sunroom. Beadboard ceiling overhead, windows wrapping the corner on every side, woven seagrass underfoot, and light pouring in from first thing in the morning to the last of the day. The furniture is kept deliberately plain because the room is not the point. What is on the other side of that glass is the point. Every window here frames water and palms. This is where the evening slows down and nobody checks the time. Picture a Thursday, late afternoon, the sun sinking into the bay through these panes, a book you're not really reading resting in your lap. This is not a room you decorate around a television. It is a room you build around a horizon. You would never get out of that chair. Now the formal dining room, and it holds onto its period detail beautifully. A long solid wood table, upholstered chairs, an antique carved buffet, a gilded mirror, and drapery framing the tall windows. But the real feature here is architectural. French doors and windows open straight onto a bay view, so the water is at the table with you. Set this room for 8 on a winter evening, doors cracked to the breeze off the bay, the water going gold outside every window. This is not a dining room that was decorated. This is a dining room that was inherited, and it shows in the best possible way. You do not stage evenings like that. You simply have them over and over until they become the reason you never leave. Before we go any further, we have to talk about the light, because the photographs of this place at sunrise are almost hard to believe. This is the bay side at dawn. The lawn runs flat to the seawall, the dock reaches out over water gone completely still, and the entire horizon turns amber. Iron benches under the trees, a fire bowl on the grass, a path that leads to nothing but the edge of the bay and the sunrise past it. There's one sound out here in the morning, water, and even that has gone quiet. The city is 10 minutes behind you, and out here it may as well be 100 miles. You do not buy a view like this. You buy the right to wake up to it every single day, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, an ordinary one, and have it look exactly like this. That is the part no listing photo can really sell, and the part every owner on this street understands the moment they move in. And then the day turns and this property plays its second act. From the air at dusk, the house glows warm against a bay that stretches all the way to Key Biscayne under a burning sky. Down on the dock, the rope-railed posts pull your eyes straight into the sunset with the Miami skyline lighting up in the distance. The same land, 12 hours later, and it is a completely different place. This is the kind of evening that does not photograph, you have to stand in it. Warm windows behind you, cool water in front, the whole city glittering across the bay, the causeway lights tracing the far shore. Nobody out here's rushing. This house has been doing this every single night for 100 years, and it will do it for 100 more no matter who holds the keys. Now let me be straight with you, because it matters. This is a 1920 house. It is charming, it is original, and it has been beautifully kept, but it is not a brand new modern trophy with a wine wall and a car gallery. A buyer at this level will likely restore it carefully, because a house this original earns that respect, or build new behind that coral gate. That is the honest truth of what is being sold here. The price is not for the walls. It is for the ground beneath them. More than 170 feet on Biscayne Bay, an acre and a half on the highest ridge in the city. No homeowners association, no assemblage of little lots stitched together, one deep, private contiguous parcel on Millionaire's Row, next door to Vizcaya. You cannot manufacture that. It either exists, or it doesn't. Here it exists, and on this street, it does not come up twice in a decade. So let's bring it all together. $110 million, 1 6/10 acres on Brickell Avenue. More than 170 feet of open frontage on Biscayne Bay. A private dock with no fixed bridges to the ocean. High and dry on the oolite ridge of Silver Bluff. A gracious 1920 residence with 7 bedrooms waiting on its next 100 years. Minutes from downtown, next door to Vizcaya, wrapped in one of the greenest canopies in Miami. Properties like this do not get listed on a schedule. They surface, quietly, once in a very long while, and then they are gone for another generation. The house is the bonus. The land is the legacy. This is one of the last defining pieces of this coastline, and it is, quite simply, irreplaceable. Alright, I want to hear from you. If this were yours, what would you do? Lovingly restore this 100-year-old house, or start fresh and build the modern estate this land could hold? Drop it in the comments, I genuinely want to know. And if you're new here, and you want to see the pieces of Miami that only come along once in a generation, hit subscribe. We have more remarkable properties coming that you do not want to miss. See you in the next one.